Hello, and thank you for joining the webinar today. My name is Scott Anderson. I'm the Director of Sales at Cupix, Inc. Joining me today are Shane Flanagan and Vinay Morthy. The topic is close-up issues and RFIs 3 times faster, and why you should visit less and stay less on the job site in the era of COVID-19. Give a brief introduction to myself. My background is in laser scanning and 3D scanning. I've built a lot of as-builts from scan data across a lot of industries: manufacturing, aerospace, construction. And a few years ago, I joined the Cupix team to focus entirely on the built lifecycle, and really glad to be here today. All right, let's get started. All right, de-densifying the job site is really a necessity now. COVID-19 is here. There was a time before COVID. There'll be a time after COVID. And CupixWorks helps you manage the job site remotely. Now, we've been around ahead of COVID and have had some major impacts to construction companies and architects and those in the AEC world pre-COVID, and we're going to have some impact post-COVID, but there's definitely some impact that we're having now in the current COVID state. And I'm really glad to have Shane Flanagan here from Dome Construction, because he is coming from the GC world. He's been using CupixWorks, and he's been really instrumental in putting together and providing feedback to Cupix to develop the Cupix software. I'd like to introduce Shane and give him a chance to say hello and introduce himself.
Thanks so much, Scott. Thanks for having me, everyone. My name is Shane Flanagan, and I'm a senior PM with Dome Construction. My background's in industrial engineering, and I've been working with Cupix for the last 2-ish years on a variety of different projects in the healthcare and life sciences world. So really happy to be here today, share some of my story and some of the lessons learned of the last 2 years of product development with Cupix, Scott, and the rest of the team.
Great, thanks Shane. I'd like to get into a little bit about Cupix software and the background of Cupix. We give Dome a chance to introduce themselves as well. Cupix has been a pioneer in many 3D industries. We, as a company, were the group of us were the founders of the world's best-selling point cloud software, RapidForm. It's since been rebranded to GeoMagic. It spanned a lot of industries: manufacturing, aerospace, construction. We're also the company that put together the first cloud-based collaboration software for engineers, Team Platform. Both of these companies were acquired. So we really feel we're pioneers in this space. What we're doing now with Cupix is focusing entirely on construction and AEC. So we like to think that we're mirroring the AEC industry with 3D technology pioneers. And I think that's, Shane, that's one of the reasons that drew you to Cupix is kind of our deep background in some of the influential things we're doing in the AEC space.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. There's been just a ton of great work that we've been having, and you've been able to share a lot of lessons learned from other similar markets that we can take towards construction and keep pushing the needle forward.
Great. Again, really glad to have you here. Now here's the slide for you, Shane.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm a senior PM with Dome Construction. We're a mid-market TI contractor in California, 6 offices throughout the state, and we really focus on healthcare, life sciences, specifically biotech and biopharma, and we are also in the TI and corporate interior space as well. So again, really fun time to be in construction in California. Right now, we have a lot of work going on right now, and kind of in the post-COVID-19 world, we've been able to really leverage Cupix to help de-densify our job sites and bring the job site to our distributed design teams, because as I'm sure for all the other general contractors that are out there, distributed design teams are becoming more and more normal. So we need to come up with more and more innovative ways to bring the job site to them, connect them to the information, and bring forward a lot of the design value that is sometimes lost with the disparate data fields that are created in the Autodesk environment, and then whatever construction management solution you have. So Cupix has been invaluable to our overall tech stack.
Great, and I really love that term and description, de-densifying the job site to maintain compliance. with the era of COVID-19. Okay, well, so for those in the audience, we're going to jump right into a presentation of the site view component of CupixWorks. I'd like to introduce Vinay Murthy and give him a chance to give a background on himself and show some of the technology that Cupix has. Vinay.
Hello, hi. Hi, everyone. So my name is Vinay Murthy, and I'm the product applications engineer with Cupix. So my background is in civil engineering and construction management, and I have a combined experience of around 5 years in design and field operations. So my goal at Cupix is to recognize some of those, the stubborn construction workflows and use Cupix to make it more efficient. And I mean, remember, just because something works doesn't mean it can't be improved. So that being said, I'm going to share my screen here and kind of show you what all the hype is about. So what you see here is what we call as our site view. It's going to be all the 360 images that you take on your field and upload it to our cloud-based software. So since this being a 360 image as expected, you are going to be able to look around, look up, like being able to zoom into the details that's above ceiling. You can zoom into the details that's in wall. And the next main thing that you're going to notice is how buttery smooth the transition is from one panel to the other. You are just going to like glide through them. So, and this is because of like each of our panel possessing like a, the spatial intelligence to it. And that's what enables the smooth transition. So you can basically like easily walk into rooms, walk out of rooms. This is going to what's enable you to do the virtual field walks. That being said, you are at this part of the building and you can go all the way to the other side of the building by just one click and in 1 second. So it's like that fast, and you can see all the visuals. You can do the smooth transition. So now that being said, you might have noticed in order to move to the other side of the building, I used a small window here and you can see the floor plan here. So this is the floor plan that you upload into Cupix. You can use as many number of floor plans that you want, and all the captures that you do or the images that you have is going to be transported to like any of the floor plan that you upload. So for example, you have the architectural floor plan here right now, but I can switch it to like a different one by clicking here and just going to any other floor plans that you have. So I'll get back to that here in a second. The next thing that I want to show you is the dates. So you are going to do multiple captures over the course of the project, right? And you can jump to different dates by clicking here, which is going to bring up a calendar. And when you go to different dates, you can see some of them are circled, right? So these are the ones where you have a capture available to view. So I can just simply click on that, and it's going to take me to the capture that was done there. So as you can notice, like the first one that we were looking at had framing going up and involved reference was going on. But right now the drywalls are being hung right now. The same thing, like you can go to different locations like I showed you earlier. You can click here and go to different dates, or you can click here and click on capture list, and that's going to show you the entire available captures and what dates they are on this particular floor. So let's go back to the calendar view, and the next thing that I want to show you is the comparison window. So you can access this by going to the side-by-side comparison tab here and clicking on it. And as you can see here, there is like you can do anywhere from a 2-window comparison to up to like 4-window comparison. So when I'm clicking on the 4-window comparison, you can see that all the windows are showing different dates. So I have a September 3rd here, August 9th there, October 25th, and December 14th. So you can see like the change that's happening. You can see the framing going on August 9th, to the drywall being hung here, above ceiling reference going on October 25th, and the finished product on December 14th. So the next thing that you're going to notice is even when I move around and when I like look around, you are getting the same exact visuals on all the floor, all the 4 windows. So you can go into the map view and you can see that they are all like taken at different locations. I mean, all the 360 photos here were taken at different locations, which comes to one of our differentiating factor that you don't necessarily have to like, it's not required to take a 360 photo at the exact pinpoint location as you had done before. As long as you have a panel or a 360, like the 360 photo in the vicinity, you are able to get the same visuals. Because as you can see here, even though they were not taken on the same spot, you are able to see the same images. And that brings to the highlight of our program, which is like how all these 360 images or the panels are interconnected with each other. And that's what makes this possible. So let's jump onto a different floor. And if your project is a multi-story building, you can simply go to the level tab here and jump to a different floor. It's that easy. And it's going to take you to the different floor that you want to access. So let me close all these windows, the comparison windows here, and show you how the comparison view is possible and the spatial intelligence that our each of the 360 imagery holds. So in order to explain that, I'm going to switch from the spanner view to the 3D mode. Let's jump to a different date. So this is the floor plan of your job site. And I'm going to enable the excuse me. I'm going to zoom in here. And I'm going to enable the panel bubbles. So this is going to show up all the 360 photos that you took on this floor, right? So if I am like moving it like this, you can see all the 360 photos that you took are like at the same elevation. But when you look here, you can see that they're at a different elevation, and that's because this was taken on a stairwell. So you can see that how the person was going down the stairwell or going up and was taking these photos. So all the 360 images that you're taking has like spatial intelligence to it, and it has it shows how it exists in space and how they're tied to each other. And this is what enables us to do the comparison view and the smooth transition and all those features that I was showing you earlier. Now I'm gonna switch, hand over the screen back to Scott. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinay. Are those great? The silky smooth or buttery smooth transitions. I saw the comparison view to a great extent. You really nailed the 3D capability there with some of the examples you showed. So that's going to be a good framework and good basis for jumping into some later examples that we'll get into, namely field operations, RFIs, quality and safety, work coordination. So that's here to come. Okay, so we'll continue on. Thank you, Vinay. What we've got next is construction lifecycle framework that I'll present. We'll go through this really briefly to show some of the value adds of Cupix, and Shane will be talking a little bit about the pre-construction side. So the construction lifecycle here from Autodesk, courtesy of Autodesk, is the design, pre-construction, field operations, and handover and operations framework. And where we're focusing today, because this is a general contractors webinar, not a architect's webinar, nor a owners or facility management webinar. We're focusing on GCs today. So pre-construction, field operations, and this really should just say handover are the areas that we're focusing on. But since we got Shane, it would be really valuable for him to interject as much as possible. So he's going to talk a little bit about the pre-construction side, and I'll hand it over to Shane and one of his examples that he's using at Dome.
Awesome, thanks, Scott. Yeah, so as Scott mentioned, we've been leveraging Cupix for quite a while on the pre-construction side of the house for us. As a TI contractor, we place a lot of time and effort on the overhead coordination. A lot of these buildings do not have the best as-built, so we really rely upon the 360 photos generated and housed within Cupix to help drive a lot of our coordination discussions. It's never been truer for that workflow in the COVID era, because unfortunately we don't have the luxury of having 6 or 8 different general foremen for mechanical and framing trades and electrical trades to be on site to kind of drive these discussions, put their layout on the floor, and determine swim lanes. So we've been able to come up with a couple pretty novel workflows that leverage the as-built 2D drawings or the design drawings, connect them to time and space with the 360 photos, and then able to develop swim lanes based upon system prioritization and some of the overarching benchmarks that we have on the project. So we've been able to kind of have our overall coordination sessions in our sub meetings to help drive these conversations, then determine how we can best resolve some of the clashes that are known on the drawings by just overlaying them in Procore, Plan Grid, or in the BIM 360 world. So this is just one workflow that is it's a little sticky for us right now, but it's definitely developing. And the more and more that we have time to refine the process over more and more projects, we're really happy with, we're going to be happy with where it goes in the future. So this is just one way that you can help to drive kind of value added discussions with your subcontractor base by leveraging Cupix. And coincidentally, marking up the drawings and annotating them and using geometry.
Great, thanks Shane for the insight into how Dome is using Cupix in an area of your project management and going into that. All right, great. So today's topic, more in depth, is going to be on the field operations side. So quality and safety, progress tracking, work coordination, and a way to describe this challenge or this problem is to think about all the different roles and the different people that are on the job site or off the job site. The subcontractors in the field, the superintendents and project engineers that are fielding questions or sending them over the fence to the project management and design team. And there's owners are always involved. So this communication, this back and forth, this exchange on figuring out what's happening on the job site versus what's not happening on the job site is ever more prevalent in the post-COVID era. It's certainly prevalent in the pre-COVID era, and will continue to be an issue for decades to come. So miscommunication, confusion, delaying decision making, these are things that we can help solve with virtual job site and being able to answer questions and make actionable decisions by looking at a Cupix virtual tour. So what Cupix provides is this 3D buttery smooth and silky smooth 3D navigation tied together with a 360 view. And by simply taking a weekly capture or on an as needed basis, you can enable stakeholders to get a lot of value being remotely on the job site. This fella is off the job site. He's working on his computer. He's got Cupix on screen. He's able to look at issues and navigate in 3D and 360 like he's there. So what Cupix is providing is a minimization of job site visits, which can reduce miscommunication because you can see everything that you want to see or go and navigate and view anything that you want to view. And what this ultimately does is it saves time and money with speedier decisions, reduced mistakes, and just a more responsive, actionable team that's putting the project together. Some of the integrations, like integrations to BIM 360, Plan Grid, and Procore, are also essential there with BIM 360 currently integrated into Cupix. Shane, since you're, I think it'd be great to give a little bit of insight into how the workplace has changed at Dome. California was one of the first states, in Santa Clara County, where we are, primarily is one of the first areas that had a major change in keeping job sites closed and keeping people off the roads and out of the office. How's work changed for Dome? And maybe you can comment on that a little bit.
Yeah, so as we mentioned earlier, Dome's been very intentional and very mindful about how we want to systematically de-densify all of our job sites. So that really means just making sure that we have the most essential people on our job sites and we don't have any superfluous folks floating around, so that we can ultimately kind of drive down the collective risk for folks with exposure to COVID-19 on the job site. So by us taking weekly scans, it's been able to minimize the amount of overall job site visits for our subcontractor pool so that they can plan their work more effectively, but still maintain the kind of contextual relationship that they have with the job and a relationship with the existing conditions so they can plan their work. It's been adding more context because they can actually connect that last layer of information that you wouldn't otherwise get from reviewing 2D as-built or the 2D design drawings that are there. And we can also make teams more readily as a cohesive unit, not just as a subcontractor team, as a general contractor team. We've been using Cupix in our OAC minutes to resolve issues on the fly, in our overhead coordination meetings, as we mentioned earlier. And then also just making sure that we can start to integrate inspectors over there. I'm not sure for those other general contractors that are out there, if they've had any issues with scheduling, authority having jurisdiction, fire marshals, or anything like that. But it's been a real challenge for us. So bringing the job site to them and scheduling a Zoom meeting and having them kind of fly through on a progress tracking cadence to just see where the job's at and to get some kind of milestone inspection sign off in order to either close up overhead or close up walls. It's been absolutely invaluable for us. So it's really just an imperative portion of our tech stack that we're going to continue to invest in going forward and start to develop more and more sophisticated digital workflows that connect Cupix to Procore to PlanGrid and to the BIM 360 environment for us.
Thanks, Shane. That insight's really valuable, and I know that Dome's taking a large advantage of having the design data work through the job site and seeing some of those visuals along with the CAD and the BIM there too. We'll definitely be covering that a little bit later in this presentation when Vinay gets back online. What I want to show briefly is that this is not black magic in terms of creating these virtual tours. Amazon exists. Local retailers will be back up. You can buy these cameras anywhere. So one of the core pieces of the technology is an off-the-shelf camera, one that you can get for anywhere from $192 up to $1,000. Somewhere around $300 to $400 is our sweet spot for the type of camera that we'd recommend for construction sites. Some of these higher-end cameras have a little too many bells and whistles for construction sites. But anyways, you grab a camera, you get the Cupix app, and you can start capturing. So you do it yourself with an off-the-shelf 360 camera. So we'll be getting into that a little bit more with how the capture takes place. But I want to hand it back over to Vinay because he's going to be showing some really powerful things with annotations and BIM 360 integration in this portion of the demo.
All right, so thank you, Scott. So this is something that I'm very excited about because I have spent a lot of time writing RFIs, creating field reports, safety issues, and all those kind of things. So share my screen here. So there are a couple of main features that sets apart Cupix and that makes us like a powerhouse and more than just a visuals. And the first one is the annotation feature. So you can access the annotation tab by clicking here. And what the annotation tab does is it's going to help you or grant you this access to create any type of forms. And this custom form creator, it can match your RFI forms, issue report forms. It could be for safety incident reporting. So no matter what the workflow is, you're able to create a form that's going to match what you have existing as part of your project. So as you can see here, I already have created some examples like the architect field report, the field issues RFI. So the first step would be to create a group, and you can do that by hitting add group, and you can name it. So for example, let me say that the one that I'm creating here is a virtual field walk, and I'm going to date it today. I'm going to hit done. And that's going to create a new group here. So once I get to this group, I can hit this add annotation. And when I go to annotation, I can see all these forms. And these are all custom forms that was created. So like I said earlier, it could be anything, RFIs, safety incident reporting, field issues, it could be anything. So you have those forms now readily accessible to be added onto any of these groups. So like I was mentioning earlier, there are certain features that we have that makes Cupix a powerhouse when it comes to AEC technology solutions, and makes us something more than just a 3D visual software. So the second thing, or the highlight feature, is like the Bim comparison, right? So you can access the Revit file or the Navisworks file where you did a clash detection that you have for your project by uploading it to Cupix, and you can access it by the Bim comparison window here. So as you can see here, you can see, like I was showing you earlier, like the side-by-side comparison, you are going to get all the same features here. Like you can move around, you can look up, you can look down, and whenever you're moving around, you're still getting the same visuals. So you can zoom in, zoom out, and if you want, you can unsync it and kind of get a different view of what's going on, but you can sync it back and it's going to be the exact same view. You can also move around and it's still going to be the same visuals. So now, since I showed you guys that, let's get into some of the workflows. So going to this annotation tab here, I see that the architect had created a field report, which is one of the benefits of having Cupix, that you don't necessarily have to be on the site. The architect was able to do this from his office by virtually walking the job site. So as he was virtually walking the job site, he came across a couple of issues, and he had some concerns. So he created a field report right there. So let's take some of this as an example. So this item here says that the card reader access locations need changed. And he's asking us to see the attached sketch, which is also something that Cupix enables use to do, which is like attaching a sketch that also has the markup feature. So as you can see here, it's pretty straightforward. The architect is wanting to move the card reader from this location, from this wall to over here. So that's pretty straightforward. Let's take a different example. This one here says that the equipment location is going to change. So it's going to say, saying that on the upcoming updated drawings, the equipments on this side of the wall is going to change. So let's take a look at the sketch. Okay, so this is pretty detailed. He has the BIM comparison open here, and he's saying that this cabinet is going over here, or it could also mean that he's deleting this one and moving it completely over there. So since I'm not like entirely sure of what's gonna happen, and I already have the drywall up, and I want to know what the exact detail is going to be, because I need to provide the backing for these casework that's going on here. So I'm going to officially start this documentation process by creating an RFI. So all I have to do is go to the RFI tab, hit add annotation, go to the RFI template, and I'm going to name this RFI. I'm just going to leave the number here saying RFI, say 20. And then I'm going to say the subject as like the Suite C lab east side equipment change. I'm going to write the question saying that as reported on the field report, the equipment is going to be rearranged, but since it's not clear, can you pick and choose from some of the options that we are going to provide? And I'm going to give the due date as, say, a week and a half from now. And this is going to be an architectural type. Now, again, this can completely match whatever format you have for your RFI. And I'm going to hit save. So this RFI is created here. Now, you see this pin here, you can relocate it to any point that you want. So I'm going to pick a new point, which is somewhere closer there. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do the BIM comparison view, because I need to create that multiple sketch, right? So how this is going to help me do is gonna come over here. take a look at the equipment that's here. So I can basically pick all the equipments that I have a question on, and I'm going to transport it. Now, this is what is like a game changer. This is like super exciting because you are able to transport any objects that you have in your BIM model into the Cupix view. Now think about how big of a deal this is, like when it comes to like MEP clash detections or making sure to check if like a casework fits between the space that you have. All this, you don't have to be on site to do it. Like you can just check from your office if you're offsite. And this also brings me to the next thing about the measurement accuracy that Cupix has. So if I check the measurement of casework here in the BIM view, it's showing me that it's close to 19 foot here. So I'm going to take the measurement here, and it's as simple as like picking 2 points. You can see how like close they are. So that's also another powerful feature that you have in Cupix. So in order to finish the RFI, I'm going to bring this equipment here again, which is going to let me move it around, right? So this is also a game changer. Like you can actually move around the objects that you just transported from your BIM model, and you can move around to see how much space you have, how much clearance you need. So like I'm going to take like a couple of screenshots of this and add it to my RFI. And what it's going to end up looking like is going to be this. So I have a couple of options, which is going to help the architect answer it really fast. So the first option I'm asking him is this cabinet going to completely move over here, and is this going to get deleted? Or my second option, which is if it's going to get duplicated on the other side. So now if it's one of these two options, what you did is cut down the time significantly for the architect to just give you a simple answer. Yes, there is going to be 2 cabinets. Or with all these powerful features that you have within Cupix, the architect can move around items, see how much clearance he has. If he has to move the casework across the room, he can do that. So you are making it the process easier for the architect, which is going to help you get your answer faster. So that's that workflow. So what we looked at is moving on from a field report to the RFI. So the next thing I want to show you is some of the field issues I have created. So like I said, the whole idea is to enable someone off-site to be virtually be on-site. So as I was virtually walking the job site, now this could be me as an architect or me as a project engineer or a project manager. When I'm walking on job site, I could see like, simple issues like the cables lying around on the floor. And I'm going to quickly create a safety item saying this needs to be hung overhead and that this is a trip hazard. So it's like, as simple as that. And you can you can like pin it here. You can take a screenshot, however you want to go about it. So I told you there are like a couple of features that makes Cupix a powerhouse, right? The first one that I showed you was the annotation feature. The second one that I showed you was the BIM compare, also the BIM transport, and being able to move around the objects in the Cupix visuals. The third thing that makes Cupix a powerhouse is our integration. So we are integrating with all the major the PM softwares, so Procore, BIM 360, and PlanGrid. So how that integration is going to work is we are going to match like the RFI forms or the issue form that you have, say for example in BIM 360, and being able to create an issue in Cupix and being able to transport it to the BIM 360 effortlessly. So I'm going to show you a quick example. Let's take this issue. So this issue here says that the insulation is torn and needs to be fixed. So as you can see here, I told you earlier how you can pin like the issue to the location where it's happening. So it doesn't necessarily have to be on the ground, right? If the issue is something that's above ceiling, that's where you're going to pin it. And if I'm like moving, if a person comes to this room, and if this issue is selected, even if I move around, it brings my attention right back to the issue, no matter where I'm looking. So that's a nifty feature that we have. So coming back to the integration part, how can you create an issue and put it on BIM 360? Now that's going to be as simple as clicking on add annotation, going to the BIM 360 tab here and clicking on issue. So now this is going to bring me to the template that's going to match what you have in BIM 360, right? So I'm going to quickly create this issue, name it as to like fixed on insulation. This is more of like a quality issue. So I'm going to put that there, quality, and I'm going to hit next. So as soon as I hit next, what it's going to do is take me to the item that you just created in the project that you have already linked with the CupixWorks, right? So take an issue here. So this BIM 360 issue, I can open it in BIM 360 from Cupix. So when I hit that, it's going to take you here, and you can search for it, right? You can search BIM 360 issue, the same name that you had there. So I'm going to click on that. And when you open the item, you can see how there's a description or like a link that's going to take you back to Cupix. I can simply click on that, and it's going to take me right back to that location where that issue was created in Cupix. So this integration is like very lateral, like you can move from either Cupix to the BIM 360 or right from BIM 360 back to Cupix. So that's how smooth the transition is going to be. And that's all I had to show for now. Thank you.
Okay, great, Vinay. Thank you. Shane, I know that we're going to be showing some videos. Do you want to about the capture technique? Do you want to comment at all on what Vinay had been presenting?
Yeah, that's a great segue, Vinay. We have been using similar workflows on the quality side. Obviously, one of our big value added points that we use in marketing, but then also from an operational perspective is that we strive for minimal punch list, since a lot of our clients tend to be in the life cycle, or sorry, in the life sciences industry as well as the healthcare industry. So they don't have a lot of time between substantial completion and then first day of business because they are trying to activate those assets as quickly as possible. So by having a continual kind of built-in quality program, we're able to address these issues as they're created or on daily walks and such. And then also validate different portions of the design through the finish installation is very, very valuable for us at Dome, especially on some of these bigger projects that are getting larger and larger from a dollar perspective and getting shorter and shorter from a schedule perspective. So a couple of those projects that were shown earlier in South San Francisco were projects in excess of $70 million and less than 8 months of schedule. So again, having these digital workflows that reduce the overall time from issue creation to solution is absolutely invaluable to us as a company.
Thanks for interjecting and explaining some of the other ways that Dome's using CupixWorks. Okay, so I'm going to take it from here for a little bit and get into how this capture takes place. So remove some of the black magic and explain how these captures take place and how you can do it yourself. So there's basically 3 methods that allow do-it-yourself capture: a single shot, which is basically just holding up a camera and taking a photo; a video shot, where you can have a camera running and collecting video as you walk through the job site, in a multi-shot. And each of these has advantages and disadvantages in terms of speed, clarity of imagery and the silky smooth, buttery smooth walkthrough. We like to use the term Matterport. It's well known in the real estate industry, and we basically match that buttery smooth walkthrough. So when we're talking about navigation, we're going to be talking about that. So let's go into a couple of the cases, first starting with a single shot method, and just show you how this works. So this fella is just walking around, and he just takes the camera and looks at the app, plugs in where he's at, and takes the shot. So that's as simple as it is. He would go into a room, plug in where he's at, and take the shot. So a single shot, you pin a position of yourself on the reference plan. This, of course, is using the Cupix mobile app. And if you want to figure out if the walls are painted or if there's a safety issue, that's kind of all you need is that single shot. It does allow the Matterport virtual style walkthrough, but since you're just taking a photo here and a photo there, having this continuous walkthrough isn't really possible or as possible or as efficient with a single shot. So it's larger jumps that you're taking. You're taking larger jumps between shots. Since a single shot doesn't have these photos that are tied together, like in a video shot frame or a multi-shot frame, you don't get 3D measurements. But the advantage is image quality is nice and crisp, and the capture time is immediate, and the processing time, even though we have a 10 minutes there, it's basically immediate processing. So you immediately have the photo available for you. So that's a single shot, and it's really used for sparse capture, and you can use it pretty much whenever you need. The video shot is a workflow where you're sticking a video camera either to your helmet or carrying around a camera on a pole. And this is sped up for a little bit just for the sake of a time, but just walk through the job site. So if you want to get something close to an area, or you just want a sparse walkthrough, you can do that, but it's as simple as just walking through the job site. In darker areas, you might go a little bit slower. If you're trying to get close to something, you might get a little bit slower for the crispiness of the image, but it's pretty easy to use the video shot. This workflow for video is extensible indoors and outdoors as well. This is a sped up image of a roof capture where we're capturing much more than 3,000 square feet a minute. We're somewhere around 15 to 20,000 square feet. We're in the range of half a million square feet an hour using this method. So depending on the environment and depending on how you're capturing, you can literally capture enormous volumes of space, up to 500,000 square feet an hour using Cupix. So both of these methods are the video shot methods, and it's as simple as turning on the video mode on the Cupix Capture app. You can take it weekly or as needed, and you definitely get that silky smooth Matterport like walkthrough because there's a lot of information. So if you want to turn left, you can. If you want to turn right, you can. And you do get 3D measurement. The image quality is degraded a little bit just by the nature of video. Video is never going to be as crisp as individual photos, and the speed is substantially faster than a single shot method with a processing time that doesn't make you wait that long. So if you're capturing hundreds of thousands of square feet, you can expect to have the data processed relatively quickly. So the capture workflow is you're just going to take a couple of minutes or a minute or a couple of minutes of capture at a time, and then upload them all to the cloud, and in a short order you can have the video shot tours available for you. And it's important to point out the single shot, the multi-shot, and the video shot all have the same type of capability in terms of Bim compare, time-based comparisons, walking and navigating through the site, as Vinay showed earlier in the demonstration. The multi-shot is the third type of do-it-yourself capture, and then this type of capture involves getting closer to an object or getting closer to within a room, say for an RFI. Maybe you want to get some detail around a piece of equipment or some detail around a window or a door or in the room. The multi-shot's where it's at. You can take detailed images all with individual photos, upload them to Cupix, and Cupix will solve the location of every photo that was captured. You can take these photos walking around, and really what's really nice about this method is sticking the camera out in any location allows you to get any perspective that you need. So if you want to shove the camera up above the ceiling or down below a piece of equipment, you can do all that. And You don't even have to hold the camera vertical. You can hold the camera at any angle. Another advantage of Cupix and our processing algorithms. So this gets uploaded into Cupix, and you've got something that's processed very quickly, is going to be these nice crisp images, is going to be very measurable as your stakeholders are analyzing the data. So the multi-shot, you take a lot of photos. You can do it weekly or as needed. You get the silky smooth virtual tour, whether that's within a room or up and down around a piece of equipment. 3D measurement is going to be the best around here, and the image quality, because it's photos, going to be nice and crisp. Processing time's really quick, and the capture time just takes a minute or two to capture an area. And just a brief point on the measurement, you might be using the measurements for clearance checks or ceiling height checks or in wall, locating objects in wall. So that's all part of the measurement tool and what you might be using the measurements for. Okay, so what this all comes down to, and I think why we're all here is this is a way to save time and money with technology. We showed some of the workflows that are possible with Cupix. We showed how the capture could take place and how you can generate those virtual tours. And Shane has given a couple of examples of how Dome has been using Cupix on their job sites. Now, what we have here represents a whole team's time saving. So we're not talking about an individual GC. We're talking more broadly the architects, the subcontractors, the owners, and the GCs that are taking advantage of the time savings and the cost savings that you can get from a Cupix. So annual expenses on an average construction project for a high priority RFI, by saving time from an architect driving to the job site, driving back to the job site, from the miscommunication and communication lags that can go on. You're talking about large savings for a project team on high priority RFIs that demand a response immediately. And so the advantage is going to be some time savings, some cost savings alongside some responsiveness improvements. So that's where we get a faster RFI turnaround, part of the title of this webinar. For regular RFIs that are lower priority, that happen more frequently, or change orders, or risk mitigation value adds, or field reports, or other workflows that are happening on the job site, from punch lists to closeout. What we're looking at in these 5 items are big savings from Cupix for the job, the entire team, compared to the traditional way of doing things. Just because the traditional way works doesn't mean that you got to stick to it. With CupixWorks, you can have a more responsive job site, have big time savings, which equate to money savings for a typical construction project. Okay, so we'll wrap it up there, and I want to thank the Dome and Shane for joining us, and Vinay for joining us as well. We're going to answer a couple of question and answers earlier. You might have seen the Q&A area inside of the panel. We got a couple of questions lined up, so I'll be moderating those and going through those and asking the group if they can respond. And we have early access program available for Cupix. So if you're interested in joining, please respond to the email that's been sent out. If you haven't entered your email, just send us a quick email. You know how to reach myself or the team here at Cupix, and we'll start to get you involved in the early access program so you can do some of the amazing things that Vinay showed and that Dome is experiencing themselves. We'll get into some question and answers here now, and I'll try to get to a couple of these. And I think some of these have been answered already, but in terms of, this is an easy one. What does it cost to get started? What type of cameras are recommended? So I think I can answer this, but let's get another voice in here. Vinay, do you want to comment on the type of cameras and what you might recommend to get started?
So we do support a wide variety of cameras. So it all depends upon what you're willing to spend and what type of image quality that you're trying to get out of it. So you can find cameras anywhere from like the 200 range to all the way to like the 1000 range. But if you're planning to do like video recording, the ones that we support is like Madventure V, and the Insta360 XODR. But as long as you're just looking for like the 360 photos, it depends upon, again, what you're looking for. So the image quality, if you're trying to get like HDR type of image quality, I would recommend like the Ricoh Theta Z. But if it's like just the normal photos, you can pick like the regular Theta or a Mad V, which would come around the 250 range. So it all, we do support a wide variety of cameras, but it depends upon what your project is willing to spend on it and what you're trying to get out of it.
Great, thank you, Vinay. Another question here is related to it seems like taking measurements to create 3D facility plans or create a floor plan from the geometry. We have a second webinar that's scheduled for Friday of this week where we're really going to dive into architectural workflows. This was more of a construction workflow. The seminar later this week is also hosted by a Cupix team member with somebody from industry that is an architect. And so they're going to get into some of the ways that as-built are being developed and some of the constructability benefits that can happen with Cupix. Shane obviously covered some of the constructability benefits for swim lanes and working with his novel measurement workflow. So that's something that we'll cover a little bit later. Shane, if feel free to ask that question, or we'll get you involved in the other webinar. But that answers that. Okay, another question is, let's see, we got some on setting up a. How do you get set up? So that's going to tie into how do you set up a project. So I guess this is referring to the BIM models and working with the BIM models and sheets and levels. So we didn't really cover that within SiteView. We were showing more of what you can get from the software. But maybe Vinay, this is a good question for you. How do we work with like a sheet or a BIM model? How do those get into the system? Maybe you can explain how easy or difficult that is.
Yeah, sure. So the whole idea is to, get what we want to do is like minimum effort from the GC side. So the setting up process, it's not difficult at all. So when you set up your project in Cupix, the things that we look for are the basic ones are like floor plans, and we are going to scale it and set coordinates because, like I showed earlier, you can switch between floor plans and you are still able to see the visuals in correlation to the floor plan. So how that happens is by setting up a coordinate system to the floor plan. It's not difficult at all. We can either send you a step-by-step tutorial like a PDF file or something, or if you want us to do it, it's something we can set up for you like in a half an hour. If it's like, even if it's a really big project, it's not difficult at all. The setting of the floor plan itself or scaling itself, it's just only going to take you a couple of minutes. But if your project do have a BIM model from like a Revit file or an Abyss work file, we can bring that in. You can upload that and match the same coordinates that you had set for the floor plan, so that you are getting that side-by-side comparison with the BIM model that you have. And again, it's not a difficult process at all. It's something that you can do it by yourself by following the step-by-step tutorial that we can send you, or we can set it up for you.
I think.
Actually, Scott, do you mind if I just build off Vinay's?
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love for you to.
Yeah, the ability to toggle between different sheets in your plan set is an absolute game changer. I've pretty much tried everything under the sun with regards to 360 photos and being able to tie that back into the drawing sets. And very, very few applications have been able to handle that level of functionality as seamlessly as Cupix is. Because I'm sure that everyone could appreciate it who's done overhead coordination or in-wall coordination, but different sheets matter at different times in the job. So being able to go between your architectural set, your mechanical, your electrical, your plumbing or process, and your fire suppression set, and also reference your RCPs is just so easy. It really makes things very, very seamless, especially for your superintendents doing quality checks in the field.
Thank you, Shane. That's really, really valuable. So we're hearing from Vinay. You get the files uploaded, and whether it's a Revit or a sheet from whatever trade it is, Cupix crunches that and makes it available to you. And then Shane great insight on why that's valuable, because you got different sheets that are important at different times, different CAD models, BIM models that are important at different times. Great question. Okay, let's see. I think we are going pretty long here. Thanks for everybody for staying in. We've got about one last question. Owner handoff question. How would you rephrase this? How would you share the data for owner handoff? How is that helpful? So let's go with that question and leave that as a wrap up. And fittingly, because after the project's done, I want to hand the data off to the owner. So Vinay, I'll give you a chance one more time if you don't mind fielding that question. And Shane, again, feel free to interject at any time.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to owner handover, I'm believing like the things that they are looking for mainly is going to be like the in-wall and above ceiling before the drywall and the ceiling covers it. And maybe like if you have like a big CEP or like the mechanical room, the O&M manuals and warranty information and all that for the equipments inside the mechanical room. So these two are probably going to be like a dedicated capture. So the best, the best practice would be to create. So when you're creating the side view, you can actually pick and choose what floor that you want to show them and in between what dates. So if you're picking the dates just for when you have the in-wall visuals or the above ceiling visuals, and the dedicated capture that you did for the mechanical or the CEP room, that's the only thing that you need to share with the owner. So it's going to be very precise and specific to exactly what they're looking for. So it's going to be a very simple process, and they can access it with just the link that you're sharing it with them. And do you had anything to add to that, Shane?
You covered it great, Vinay. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we close up, I see a question here asking about the Procore integration. Just wanted to mention that, excuse me, 1 second, I'm going to share my screen here real quick. So that Procore integration is going to be the same way I showed you the BIM integration here. So when you're adding and creating an issue, instead of the BIM, along with the BIM 360, you're going to see a Procore tab. So you're going to create an issue, and instead of like opening in BIM 360, you can click on that where this opens up the BIM 360 right now, and you can see the same issue there. Instead of this, it will be Procore. And you are going to see a similar link there, which when you click on it, it's gonna take you back into Cupix, and you are going to see the same issue there. So the integration, like the communication is going to be lateral, like back and forth between Cupix and Procore. And it's going to be the exact same way that we've been showing for the BIM 360.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Vinay. Okay, that's going to wrap up our time here. I wanted to thank our panelists once again. Shane Flanagan from Dome Construction and Vinay Murthy from Cupix. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having us.
All right, and thanks to the audience for joining us. We hope that you got some value from the webinar, and we'll be following up with an email for any of those that are interested in joining the early access program. Signing off.